I've only got $2 million worth of cash value or loans in my system, and my business is worth 10 million. I've got a problem. That just immediately gives you the prescription that I don't have a big enough system to prepare for that windfall.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal, or investment advice. Please consult a professional advisor before making decisions based on what you hear on this show.
Welcome back to the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast, your home for discovering how to build passive income streams and become financially free on your terms. Today's episode is for every business owner who's spent years building your business, trying your best to figure out how do I exit, and when I exit, what is the plan? So when the windfall comes, we want to help you prepare in advance with a strategy. So today's topics is going to be the exit playbook. And we're going to be breaking down something that our mentor, Nelson Nash, talked about in his book, Building Your Warehouse of Wealth. How do you prepare wisely? So here's a couple of things that Nelson said. Some of you got a chance to meet him. For those who didn't, Nelson had 5 main points that he would talk about when it came to windfalls. 1, he'd say you have to control your capital. That means you don't let banks or the IRS dictate what happens to your money. 2, we must protect against its erosion. A windfall without a strategy disappears just as fast as it arrives, meaning when the money comes, if you haven't already prepared what to do with it, something else is going to take over. And I think that this is a big mistake. We want to make sure we talk about that today, guys. Thirdly, we want to create a multi-generational impact. We need to be thinking long range. Nelson, he had these keys to banking. The first one is you must think long range. He would say, I need to be thinking 70 years into the future. I won't be here and you won't. But we need to be preparing for that. And if we think that way, then we can help leave an inheritance for our children's children. Fourth, he talked about maintaining liquidity and flexibility with policy loans. We're taking loans against our cash value. Our money, our cash value continues to grow even while we use it. That's a huge opportunity miss that most people get wrong in this. And fifth, he said, be mentally and financially ready. IBC helps you. It helps you become a better steward, not just an earner. You won't be surprised you'll be prepared.
If you've listened to our show for any length of time, you've heard us talk about infinite banking and how we were able to use that concept to create over $50,000 a month in passive income. But it's just not that easy to figure out, how does this all connect into my own personal system?
Stallion, that's why we created the passive income operating system, bro. It shows you how to turn active income into passive income. It makes all the steps come together. If you would like to get access to it as a podcast listener, we've never given this away in public before. Go to what'swhatwallstreet.com/PIOS.
I want to break this down with my panelists here. I've got Mr. Incredible, Mr. JD Hill. Welcome, JD.
Man, I'm so glad to be here, Russ.
Good to see you, brother.
Not in Alabama, but in Texas. But I'm glad to be here on the show.
All right. Well, for my brothers here in Alabama, I got the doctor, Mr. Eric Hudson. Good to have you on again today, Eric.
I am so excited, Russ. This is going to be an amazing podcast.
Yeah. And my business partner, the one who finished behind me in our March Madness bracket, the Italian Stallion, Mr. Joe Murray. Good to see you, Stallion.
I like to let you win every once in a while, Russ. Just don't get used to it.
All right. Mr. Incredible, I'm coming to you first. Why do so many business owners, in your opinion, fail to plan for their windfall and end up giving away way too much in tax when they sell their business?
It's a great question. Being a business owner and entrepreneur myself, I think prior to getting in the world that I am in today, I used to believe that selling a business was a very linear process, right? You just go from A to B, you build it, you sell it, and then you walk away with cash. Fairly simple and straightforward, right? But what I didn't realize was that it's really not that straightforward. And so when you sell a business, you need to prepare for the tax impact beforehand. If you're not thinking about where that money's going to go or how you can protect it, you're setting yourself up for a significant portion of that to go away to Uncle Sugar, as I like to call the IRS. Okay. So for example, imagine that selling your business is like preparing for a marathon. I've never prepared for a marathon. My wife has run a marathon. But if you wait until the day before to get ready, you are going to be exhausted before you even get to the finish line. And so you need to have a strategy well in advance to ensure that you're not caught off guard, that you can at least make it past, the first half mile marker, right?
Yeah. Well, all right. you recently did a presentation to our passive income mastermind. For those who don't know about that, this is a group that are 8, 9 figure entrepreneurs that have not only set up their passive income operating system, they've maybe gone through our passive income lab where they've become great investors, right? Learn how to build their passive income streams, and they want to be in rooms with others achieving at high levels, right? Their aspirations are the goals that they get in a room with people that's their daily achievements. So in that room, JD, you were breaking down what exactly the exit playbook is and how it connects to Nelson Nash's idea of preparing for a windfall. What are the key components there? Can you help us like break down each one of those pieces so as we go through this podcast for the person who's listening, maybe as a business owner and says, okay, I need to be thinking about this, help them see it in bite-sized chunks.
Oh, I mean, we spent an hour on that presentation, and you want me to condense that? That's rough. But no, the exit playbook, it's very simple. It's a strategy to ensure that when you sell your business, you're not caught off guard, and you know how to manage the proceeds, like just very simply. And so it ties directly into Nelson's book of building a warehouse for wealth by preparing for that windfall well in advance. The key is to have a place to put your proceeds. Right. That's the most fundamental thing, is that you know exactly when you sell your business where you're going to direct those proceeds, so that you don't waste an opportunity. Right. And so nobody wants to, if you, what is the analogy? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Mm.
Right. And I think that's really what it boils down to. Like, if you're building a business, you can't just think about how am I going to make money today? You have to think about long range into the future. When I sell this business, how am I going to then take that's really where the wealth is created, is on the sell of that business.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got to be thinking about that.
No, and it is. It's like just I want to catch everybody up who are able to see that presentation, which you did such a fantastic job. Ultimately, our goal is to think, if we're thinking out in advance, and this is, I remember we have a client that was a dentist and is a dentist, and he was telling me, hey, I want to prepare for when I start selling off pieces of my business. And he was thinking bigger, right? He was thinking like, how do I scale this so large that I would bring in partners, I would sell off pieces, and I would still be able to work in it. But the pieces that I sell could fund the different passive income opportunities that I want to get involved in, that would then guarantee that my future was secure. And I was like, man, that is brilliant. Like, I love the way you're thinking there. And he's like, well, what would have to be true? What would we have to do? So this is, you can apply this to your situation. You may not be a dentist, but you could apply this to your situation. And we're like, okay, well, if we know that that's our goal, then what we need to do is start preparing to have a place big enough for when we start selling it off, that we could receive that money. That money's going to go somewhere. And and I said this in the opening, it's a mistake if we wait until the day it comes, because at that time we don't necessarily know what to do with it. Imagine right now, as the market has shed 15-20% in the last couple days, weeks, if you got the money right now, would you be super excited to go put it somewhere? Probably not, right? You would just be sitting and waiting on it. And if you received it right now and you put it in a checking account, that probably wouldn't be a great location for it, for many reasons. One, you could have a liability in a lawsuit. That cash could be taken away from you. Secondly, you got the money eroding away from the cost of goods, inflation eating away at the dollar value. So I said, we need to think about that. So if we were to start an insurance policy and borrow against that insurance policy just for the purpose of creating a loan that you could then pay back with the windfall. Now, this is a disclaimer. We're not telling you to go do this. You need to work with a coach, make sure it fits your exact situation. But in this situation, he had a very strategic game plan. He already had the first associate doctor in place. He already kind of knew that this was the line. I said, okay, well, let's think out. Okay, well, if you sell this practice or portion of this, how much money do you think you'll sell it for? He's like, well, here's how I bought into a practice before. Here's how the values of the practices are bought. If we continue at this pace, this is what that percentage would be with. So we had a good number. I said, okay, cool. Well, let's start an insurance policy that then if we took loans against it for the next number of years, that then the loan balance would be just a little bit less than what you would make off that deal. And he's like, okay, what would then happen? I was like, when you sell it and they write you a check, now what we're going to do is just go back and repay that loan. And Stallion, what would be the benefit to that doctor to having set up that insurance policy and had to pay interest on that loan for those number of years to be able to repay it? What's the benefit to him in that?
The benefit is all at the tail end, right? You've earned the growth on that first dollar, sometimes 3, 5, 10 years before you would have started if he had waited till that windfall hit his bank account.
Yeah,
Because you
and
start a policy then, now you're starting from scratch. And Nelson said, you want to plant a tree when? 20 years ago. This is the next best thing, is to, get it started before you actually, probably would have normally.
Yeah, using the example of the tree, you want to eat the fruit from the tree, but it's going to take you 3 to 5 years before the tree's going to start producing fruit, right? So don't wait then until you're ready to eat and then go try to plant a tree. You're going to be hungry. Go ahead and plant it today. Well, it costs a little bit, but then when you get to that point, the benefit is that you get to eat the fruit in excess from that point forward. And that's exactly what happened. So we set up that insurance policy. We took a loan against it. He sold the portion of his practice and he paid it back just the way that we had prepared. Now, what did he do with the cash that he was borrowing against? He went and did some cash flowing assets. Secondly, whenever the money came back in, what did he do again? He went, took another loan and started doing some other asset building. Whenever he found the right opportunities, had his investor DNA, had his investor buy box, and he prepared for the next sale. So that's what happened. I'm just walking people through, like, what does it mean to prepare for a windfall? It's setting up an insurance policy with a loan. Now, you may already have an insurance policy or a system of insurance policies that you've been taking loans against the cash value, and there is a potential opportunity for a windfall. Joey, you and I are prepared for windfalls, and we realize that our loan balances aren't nearly enough to handle them, are they?
No, we got to increase it significantly.
All right, so that's the basic structure. So I'm kind of coming over you now, Eric. Sorry, I wanted to make sure we had the foundation laid before we start digging into this. So, Eric, how does something like this strategy of windfalls and the exit, preparing for it, tie into our passive income operating system?
Basically, it boils down to having a plan. We want to automate our finances as much as we can and create that storehouse that you guys have been talking about. And that's what we help you build inside the passive income operating system. We take your active income to create this storehouse to prepare for windfalls. And all the while this is happening, waiting on that windfall, is the money being lazy? Is the capital just sitting there? Well, it could. And inside your IBC system, it's doing something. But additionally, we can be using that capital this whole time, creating other investments and other passive income streams. And the velocity of those dollars turning over inside our system creates banking. Banking is what Nelson Nash says. And that's how we use the passive income operating system.
Joey, what's the biggest misconception people have about using life insurance as a part of their exit strategy?
The biggest misconception? I don't think they've ever even considered it. I mean, most people don't think about an exit having anything to do with life insurance. They think about the cash that they're going to get from it, and they think they got to invest it somewhere to kind of create cash flow. But the issue is they haven't even considered the opportunity cost and or the tax implications of not having a plan.
Okay, I appreciate that. Hey, I think you shared this stat with me that like 30% of business owners have never even considered life insurance as a tool.
Well, yeah, I would have thought it would actually be higher than that, but I'll go with 30%.
Well, and there's another stat there as we're talking about like the preparation for an exit, is that most of the business owners out there are not even prepared because they don't even know if their business can be sold. And I think it's like less than 20% of them are able to be sold. So there's a lot of misconceptions here that people have, that whether they're prepared or not preparing for this part. So how does infinite banking, Joey, make it possible, and why is it better than just dumping proceeds into an investment account? Because that's what I think you were on a call a second ago, and that's basically what that person was thinking they would do.
Yeah. And so number one, infinite banking is the foundation to all the things that we talk about, whether it's creating cash flow through assets today or preparing for the windfall. These are all connected. And I love that because you don't have to go buy some other financial tool or some other financial widget to like solve your problem. It's already baked in to this passive income operating system that we talk about, right? And so you think about it, infinite banking is the process that your cash has a place to reside, then it is leveraged into assets that create cash flow. Well, your business is one of those end assets that you can always be investing in. And then subsequently, whenever that windfall comes, whenever that big sale of that asset happens and occurs, it has to go somewhere where the system already has a place for it to go. The only limitation of this is how big is your system? Does your system have enough room to accommodate all the things that you're trying to accomplish? And most people, let's say that, and we help people all the time in this. Eric and JD, you guys tell me stories all the time about people that have bought a life insurance policy from somewhere and they don't use it. They don't even know how it actually fits in to their day-to-day life. And the passive income operating system actually reveals to them that their system is too small. They don't need one of us to sell them more life insurance. They need to be convinced that their system is too small to accomplish their end goal. And so I love to when you tie this IBC system into what we're talking about, you now can forecast and you can say, okay, well, I've only got $2 million worth of cash value or loans in my system, and my business is worth 10 million. I've got a problem, right? That just immediately gives you the prescription that I don't have a big enough system to prepare for that windfall.
There was nothing worse than walking into class when you're in school and the teacher saying, "Pop quiz day." Why? Because you were unprepared. Are you unprepared, though, for financial freedom?
Don't be. Find out how close you are by taking our 30-second quiz at wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/quiz. Hey, Wealth Without Wall Street family. If you're serious about building passive income through real estate, then you need to check out Dustin Heiner's podcast, Master Passive Income.
Yeah, Dustin retired himself at 37 years old using rental properties. And now he's teaching you how to do the very same thing step by step. If you're looking for real estate strategies that actually work, this is the podcast for you.
So go subscribe to Master Passive Income wherever you listen to podcasts and start building your path to financial freedom today. Go check it out now.
Eric, I want you to tie in there because I think there's a couple more little points that you probably have of like how, they're working with a coach, right? I think it's important to have a coach. Nelson said that in his book that you needed a coach. This isn't something to tread lightly on. We need to have someone that's been there and done that ahead of time that can have eyes on it that are objective. So we don't get caught up in the emotion of the transaction. If they wanted to get started with this strategy, what's maybe the first question someone needs to be asking?
Great question, Russ. The first question, really, I always like it when we start at the beginning. The first question is, do you have an exit in place? And is that exit plan worthy of all the hard work and years that you've invested in your business? If the answer is no, or if you feel like it's lacking, that's when you need to explore a cash value life insurance system and how that can be incorporated into your exit strategy. Compare it against what you already have if you have something in place. And if you don't have something in place, absolutely, it's time to start thinking about that. Research that indicates that 60%, Russ, of business owners, 60, do not have a comprehensive exit strategy in place, which can result in significant financial loss during the sale. Let me tell you a story. So we were going to have a party at our house not too many months ago. And I knew the party was coming, right? Because it's been talked about in our house. It was on the calendar. The party's coming. Think about it in terms of an exit. It's coming. And I could see these shrubs on the outside of my house. And my wife clearly told me those shrubs have got to be trimmed before the party. But I failed to plan to have somebody there to get those shrubs done and cleaned up before the party. So the day of the party, I'm out there with my hedge trimmer on a 10-foot retaining wall trying to trim these shrubs. I lose my balance and bring that hedge trimmer down into my leg and cut a humongous gash in my leg. And luckily, I didn't fall off the 8-foot, 10-foot retaining wall and kill myself. So the pain of not preparing ahead for something that I knew was coming cost me getting my leg, doctored and sewed up. And by the way, I still carry that scar and that thing itches every day of my life, but it could have cost me a lot more. So instead of a good result, I ended up with a bad result that I'm going to have a scar for the rest of my life, which could have been a lot worse. So if that small example gives you an idea of, in the small thing of life, how failing to plan can leave a scar that carries on, it's super important. This baby that you've birthed and that you've worked so hard for, make sure you plan for that exit that's coming. Even though you may not see it on the horizon, it's coming.
Right. And Russ, I want to jump in and piggyback what he just said. Most people are they're thinking about an exit maybe in their business, and it just seems really far off. And so it's like, well, why would I prepare today? Right? Why would I even start to think about those things? And I'll just tell you, there's three main kind of things that if you're sitting there listening to us and saying, man, that's me. I've just been putting this off, kicking the can, whatever. Number one, somebody told me this saying: the buyer dictates the exit, not the readiness of the business. When the buyer shows up, your business is ready to be sold. And if it's not ready to be sold, you've now done the second thing. You significantly reduced the value that your business should have earned. And so you gave the stat earlier that less than 20% can actually even sell their business. I think there's even less that sell it for top dollar because of this very reason. And then the last thing, by not preparing in advance, you're also leaving long-term tax benefits on the table, right? So you not only don't sell it for top dollar, you can't sell it at all because it's not ready. And then thirdly, you give way too much away in taxes because of those things. So I just want to, if we're pouring salt in the wound here, if we're going to get motivated, just keep listening, because that's what we're talking about, trying to get people to see there's a big, big, big opportunity just by heeding this wisdom and getting started today.
That's perfect. So yeah, you touched on why most business owners give away too much in taxes, because they haven't prepared. They don't have the right advisors, right? They're not considering even there being a sale. So when maybe someone shows up, they take it, and then unfortunately their advisors don't have time to do anything with it. So then they're overwhelmed by that. Second, obviously the pain and regret that comes from failing to plan. In Eric's case, it ended up with a pretty good wound on his leg. Nelson talked about the 5 key principles for preparing yourself for this kind of windfall strategy. We've started to talk a little bit about how infinite banking can protect and help you deal with these exit proceeds. I want to move to the next part where now, we're 5 to 10 years away from selling. What does that look like? What's one smart move that they can make, in your opinion, JD?
We've touched on it so much. I think it's interesting. I had a conversation today, as a matter of fact, with someone that's looking at potentially investing into their business. And I'm asking them questions about their financials, their EBITDA, like that kind of stuff. Because if I were to invest, I want to invest for the long term, because when they sell the business, that's generally whenever I'm going to get my proceeds back, plus, a big multiple there. And as I'm asking these questions, they didn't have the answers to them, which kind of had some red flags going off for me. And I think the reality is that there's so many people who start a business, whether as a hobby or because of passion or because they're good at something, but they're not actually planning to actually sell it, right? My neighbor that I go to church with, he owns a sign company. He's owned it for 20 or 30 years now, and that is his retirement. He's not even planning on selling it. He's literally planning on having, his son-in-law continue to work in the business, and he just collects a paycheck as he starts to exit right out of the business. And it's wild to me, because if he was planning to sell it, he could make so much more money this way. And so the smartest move is to start planning today. Figure out, one, that you make a decision that you're going to sell your business, right? That's the first thing. Make a decision. I'm going to sell my business. The second thing is to start to figure out, what is the value? What kind of valuation could I get for my business? Because once we can start to figure out those things, we can start to put some basic growth parameters in place. Say, look, if I grew at the next 5% a year, I can look back historically. If I grow 5% over the next 10 years, here's what the future value could be. Then all I have to do is just work backwards and start setting aside some cash flow, much like you said in the beginning, Russ, into your IBC system to pay the premiums in the beginning. And then you can literally actually start borrowing against the cash values to pay those premiums going forward to create that loan value so that when you're ready to sell, you've built the machine. You've planted the tree 10 years into the future, and now you have a place of where that windfall can go. I think there's a stat out there that business owners who start planning for their exit 5 to 10 years in advance typically increase the sale value by 20 or 40% compared to those who start later. Like it's bananas.
Joey, this is something that you and I have even known about and still are working to improve upon our own strategy with this, right? Like I think we didn't know the size of certain businesses that we owned. And so we've kind of outkicked our coverage, if you will, right? Like we were preparing for a windfall, but it wasn't quite this big, and it maybe won't be, right? But as we try to figure that out, just go back a number of years. What are some of those kind of things you would have wanted to do differently that maybe you had to overcome? Because that's where so many people are today, right? They're just now having this conversation with themselves. Help them think through those moments.
I would say number one, you have to change your mindset, and I think that's for us. We had no realistic idea of what the values of our business were, and one of our mentors came to us and said, "You should start pitching your business for sale before you're even considering selling." And I was like, "That seems kind of backwards." He's like, "But no, you don't understand." He's like, "The sale of a business can sometimes take years to come around." And he's like, "You want to actually have gone ahead and prime the pump with and go ahead and figure out who are the buyers well before you ever want to sell. Because now that you come back around, they're already familiar with your business. They've already looked at it, and now they can see the improvement now." And here's the other thing he said, they will tell you what you're missing. Right. And I would say that's for us, Russ. One of the things we've learned through this whole kind of concept is people will tell you where the levers are that you need to pull, or you need to improve, or you need to add in order for your business to not get the 3x multiple or the 6x multiple. Maybe it's the 10 to 15x multiple. Just by adding one small thing that you're like, oh, well, that actually would really improve my business, whether I sold it or not, right? So I think those are things that to kind of start thinking about. And then lastly, and it's just kind of piggybacking on what you guys have said, create the cash flow structure with this infinite banking process. It's going to protect your wealth. It's going to help you navigate storms like what we're going through right now. I mean, we're in April 2025 right now. And if you're not batting down the hatches right now and getting ready for a storm, then you're going to get caught really in a bad place. And this is something that you should be putting in place, whether you're looking to sell or not, because it's going to help you along that path. So I just think to maximize your cash out in this scenario, start taking the time to treat this like a saleable asset, not just the thing that pays your bills every month. And you will be glad that you did.
All right, just a little bit of recap as we wind down here. One, the strategy is thinking about how do we prepare our business for an exit, setting up an insurance policy that we're borrowing against. How does that help you in times like today where things are bad? Well, you have access to cash, right? Maybe right now is a time where you're lending money to your business to help it when things are not as good. Maybe it's acquiring other businesses that are having trouble that you have the ability to enhance or to improve upon, right? Like, so that borrowing against that cash value today is allow you to acquire other businesses. Take advantage when things are going bad for others. Maybe it's an opportunity for you if you're prepared. Then through the use of these loans, you create an opportunity place for that cash windfall. If you get, people ask me all the time, man, I just had a windfall, Russ. Where would you tell me is the best place to put money? First question I ask them is, how big's the loan balance against your insurance contracts? That's the first place. Why? Because it immediately reduces an expense. It secondly gives you access to it when you need it, and it's always earning interest. It replenishes your death benefit. Like, there's all these positives. And these are the little things that the person who's never borrowed against a life insurance policy don't even know. But we know that. Now, multiply that on steroids if you're doing it for a large business exit. That's how you've prepared yourself. So if this sounds something like that you're ready to get involved in, if you have a business and you're saying, hey, how do I set this up on myself? Jump on a free call right now. Go to westwallstreet.com/free call. So that way your windfall is not up to chance, right? It deserves more than luck. It deserves a plan. And Nelson Nash shared this exact strategy with us, how to apply it through this book, building your warehouse of wealth. And this will help you win and also keep more of what you've earned. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, gentlemen, for your contributions. Have an amazing day.
This has been the Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to break free of the Wall Street mindset and begin building wealth on your own terms in places you understand, so that your wealth will never run dry. See you next episode.